Every company has difference makers, the people who go above and beyond what's required. This podcast is dedicated to the people who challenge the status quo and make good companies great. Today, we're sharing one story from one company in our effort to inspire others. And welcome to the second episode of Difference Makers. My guest today is President and CEO of Equity Prime Mortgage, based in Atlanta, Georgia. His company is in the Inc. 5000, National Mortgage Professionals, 40 most influential mortgage professionals under 40. Although I don't think he's under 40 anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, Eddy Perez, President and CEO of Equity Prime Mortgage. Welcome, Eddy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Jim. It's a pleasure and an honor, and I am definitely looking forward to this.
Not more than I am. I appreciate you being so generous with your time and taking time out to do this for us.
My pleasure.
I think, this show, Eddy, is about people that make a difference, people that challenge the status quo, people that make good companies great. And I've been able to observe you over the last 5 years of our relationship, and I can tell you that I have seen you in action, and you make a big difference, not just at EPM, but in the industry, across the industry, and even I'll tell you right now, even in my company, you've made a difference. So I want to thank you for that, and hopefully we'll be able to shed some light on, what are those inner drivers that make Eddy Perez. So with that, let's talk about, before we go into the business stuff, which,
Sure.
I want to get to know you. People want to get to know you. And This is my platform to be able to give insight into somebody like yourself. So, being a first generation Cuban American, how did that influence you in your career? How did that influence you across getting into business for yourself, or in life in general, being that first generation, and then, maybe talk about that for just a few minutes, if you don't mind.
Sure. I mean, it's pretty much the fabric of not only myself, my family, pretty much everything that you mentioned around, being a first generation. I got to see things that I consider to be such an amazing gift that I think, unfortunately, some people just don't get to see. You hear so much of that negative press that the American dream is gone. I'm going to say bullshit. I just don't believe that, because I've seen it firsthand. I got to see two parents who were free for most of their life till they became adolescents and young adults, and then lost their freedom. And then they came to this country with nothing, and what they were able to do, how my father brought everybody over here, how he was able to grow himself, how he was able to grow a company, how he was able to grow a family, how he was able to support both sides of my family, even my mom's side that he wasn't related to, and just to be a true patriarch, and to just teach me about a lot about life, just even in situations that are tough. Find the silver lining, find who's there with you, be appreciative, because that's where real growth personally comes from. Is, it's real easy to be good during the good times. During the tough times of maybe you did things, this is the tough part a lot of people have a problem with. Maybe you didn't do things correctly. Maybe you didn't hold yourself accountable. Maybe you had people around you that were just not really around you for other things. It's really just such valuable life lessons that just start at, since I can remember, that just put you in a position just to understand really humans and relationships, and just have an emotional intelligence and an adaptability to perspective just higher than your average person. So it just gives you an advantage, just because it's something you dealt with day in and day out your whole life. So when you look at that, 365 days, I can go back to about 4 or 5 years old, remembering up until my father passed when I was 31. That's just a level of knowledge, almost of practicing, that you just don't get. So it's just such a wonderful gift, and just such a pleasure, and just a perspective, and just an energy that you get to understand so well.
But did you ever feel disadvantaged? Did you ever feel like, hey, the deck is stacked against us just because we're Cuban American, and we have to go out and do this much more to succeed in this country? Or did you feel like you were on a level playing field with everybody and had an equal opportunity to build the American dream?
On the contrary, I thought I was born with an advantage. I've always said this, and I believe this, Cuban by birth, American by the grace of God. And I just got to learn a perspective of just sheer appreciation every time I would, like a kid, you make those mistakes. And my parents were so good at perspective. Like, hey, you got to understand, we came to this country. We're going to have to work more hours, but that's going to put us ahead. We're going to have to do more things. We're going to have to stay truer because, we don't have generational wealth. But where I grew up in the inner city, I got to see, unfortunately, a lot of pain, a lot of single households, a lot of things that you just don't want to see. Well, I didn't see that day to day. I got to see unity, collaboration. So while going to, school with so many of my friends, I got to see, things that just are not going great while mine were going great. As well as so many people are kind, because I didn't know English till I got to kindergarten. And for the first 4 or 5 years of my life, I had a very heavy accent. So I had a lot of people that were uber kind to me from all different walks of life, because contrary to belief, I didn't grow up in Miami like most Cubans. I grew up in the inner city of Atlanta, and predominantly where I grew up, the two largest ethnicities were, the largest ethnicity was Black, which was roughly about 40%, and then white, that was 30%. So my father at a young age and my mother said, hey, get used to other people's ethnicities and their cultures, because you're going to be used to being the only one in the room. And I still am. I still go to conferences. And even when I go to NAREP, which is the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, we jokingly take a picture every year because there's like 8 Cubans there. So I'm so used to being around other people and just getting that understanding of different cultures that I thought at a young age. I still think it was an advantage. Even jokingly, it's why my fantasy football team from a young age, I named it, I think like when I started doing fantasy like 20, over 20 years ago, I named it Latino Advantage. I just think that there was a perspective that was given to me
cool.
that you can't teach in books, you can't teach in life. And even in some of the, social unrest that we deal with today, not only being a Latino, but being a Cuban and growing up in a community that was very diverse with those two ethnicities, I got to almost be like a referee, a little bit different on the sideline. So I got to see so much of the good and everything, and just so much kindness that was bestowed to me that it just, I viewed it as an advantage. I viewed it as a gift. I understand that sometimes with my name, I got looked a certain way, but that was shame on them, not shame on me. So I think that's what a lot of people don't get to understand or appreciate till later in life.
Okay, so let's talk about your dad. I've heard you speak of him as your best friend. I've heard you speak of him as your hero. I know how much he meant to you. I know yesterday was your birthday, and I know that it was his birthday. And how
he's also the tattoo and everything that I have right here.
But how cool is that you have the same birthday as your hero? I mean, your father and son are on the same day. That's, to me, that's just mind blowing. But talk about him for a few minutes. What did he teach you? How do you feel like you carrying forward maybe some of the things he's taught you in your adult, and how have you taken that into your adult life? And what are you passing that along to your kids and those kinds of things? But what are the lasting teachings and legacies that he's left with you?
We could probably do a show just on that, about just the teachings of life. I think the big thing that he taught me was pretty much the promise that he had me do on his deathbed, which was, he says, look, take care of your mom, take care of your family. Now you're in charge of everybody. I did what I could. And of course I was in denial. I was sitting there saying, no, Dad, you're going to be okay. He goes, well, just in case I'm not. He said, please don't go to Cuba till it's free. That's a very, abusive dictatorship that for whatever reason gets glorified in this country. And it's probably just as bad, if not worse, than North Korea. I don't want you to see it today because it's a shell of what I grew up, and it's maybe the land I was born on, but that's not the Cuba I know. And the one that left the biggest impression that I do to this date, that literally is at the backbone of myself, is he said, when your time's going to expire on this earth, can you look in the mirror and say that you left this world better than you found it? And my father said, I can do that. And I didn't know that till literally his funeral. and the impact that he had done for so many people. Because I know what he had done for my family, and I know what he had done for others, but there were so many very prideful, grown individuals who were crying immensely about when they were on tough times. He paid for rent. When they didn't have enough, he helped them out with food. He gave people a job a second or a third time, even after they had treated him wrongly, because he was doing the right thing, and really left me that impression that I needed to leave this world a better place and to take a lot of this knowledge and to share it. Some people get annoyed by it. Some people want to say what they want to say. But my father also taught me one of the greatest lines that I made a post about. If people aren't trashing you, then you're not doing a good enough job.
I saw that today.
And it's just one of those that, I understand that people are going to think there's some catch. Catch is very simple. I do want to carry on his legacy. I consider myself chapter 2. Mm-hmm. Even how I started this company, I grew up sweeping the floors while he was building residential homes. So I'm not surprised with some of my passions, that how life works, that it just led me into this manner, and now has given me such a, opportunity to develop people, to grow people, to express that at EPM, we really do empower people more. And it's really about personal development.
Yeah.
And we happen to do mortgages.
Well, when you think about, EPM maybe isn't even here. You're not even here if your dad doesn't leave Cuba. How did that happen? Why did he come to America? Talk about that real quick.
So Fidel came in power in 1959. Obviously, when he came in, he took over from another dictator, and his promises were democracy, and he was going to make the world better. Well, as history has shown us, that was not the case. He planned on being a Marxist and controlling people, because that's really what it's about. It's really about taking away people's freedoms, because what a lot of people don't understand is freedom is never free. It comes with a price, even if it shows an ugly face. But it's better than somebody who's trying to dictate lives and control you and tell you what to do.
Of course.
So my father, in 1964, he had become a pretty good baseball player and was on the Cuban national team. But unfortunately, he developed a intestinal infection. And they thought he was starting a coup, because my father was one that not only did he never miss practice, he worked before, he worked after. He always worked on his craft and that passion. So they thought because he was charismatic and popular, he was starting a coup. And back then they killed you and then asked questions. Well, they sent a childhood friend to kill him, unfortunately. And when they got there, they realized something was really wrong. They took him to the hospital. And the sad part is my father asked his friend, hey, Ramon, did they send you to kill me? And all his friend said was, hey, I'm just glad that you're sick, more sick than we thought. And my father said, look, I've been betrayed by my own country, and here I'm playing baseball for my country. And that's when he said he realized that it didn't matter if he died, he had to go for it. And that really has kind of built in me at a young age a belief system to always go for it, because regardless, it's going to work out. Everything happens for a reason. And I had those doubts and I didn't believe it so much, but then time and time again, when I didn't believe that, it just has shown to me that that's how life is. And why my father always said that, God protects the bold. It's not really that they're bold. They're just courageous, and they're going for it, and they don't have fear. They understand that staying isolated or not doing it is a far greater fear. And more importantly, you're robbing yourself of what could be, which will lead to mental health issues.
Wow, this is just amazing. That's an amazing story, and I heard it, but not to that detail before. What amazing courage he had to do what he did to come over here, and he came over here with nothing, right, Eddy?
Yeah, him and 6 others stole a rowboat. My dad loved that part of the story, because he stole a rowboat that belonged to Fidel. He always likes to bring that up, how it said on there, propiedad de la revolución, property of the revolution. And he stole in the middle of the night, and he got shot at in the process. But by then they'd been rowing a little bit, because he said, communists are like lazy people. They sit on their butt and they don't do anything. So they didn't realize till about 30, 40 minutes that they'd stolen the boat. And they shot at them and they heard it, but it was at a distance. And he made sure to go at the really dark part of the night. And it took them 3 days to get here. And yeah, they were all homeless. They all slept on the beaches in Miami, but luckily Miami's warm. And eventually they got work within a few days, and then they got day jobs that would pay them. And then after a week, he was able to pay nightly to stay at a motel. And then eventually he was able to rent an apartment. And as they say, the rest is history.
Amazing. What a great story. So how did you get into the mortgage business?
how does everybody get in?
I don't know. Did you dream about being a mortgage guy as a young boy? Did you? I can't wait to be. I think that's what I'm gonna be: astronaut or mortgage guy. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Obviously, first I wanted to be a baseball player. Second, I wanted to. I studied finance, and then I got into stocks, and then the '01 crash happened. And then a friend of mine said, "Hey, have you ever thought about mortgages?" And my father was still alive at that point. He worked for a lot of builders.
Uh-huh.
I went and talked to him about it. He said, "Hey, you'd probably like it." My girlfriend at the time, now wife, had told me, "Hey, my friend's husband is doing it. They talk on the phone. They get people loans.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like up to your speed, your personality. You studied finance. You grew up in the real estate contracting side, and lo and behold, the rest is history." That was back in 2002. I got on monster.com, found a company that trained, and that was it. That's
it.
Fell in love with it from almost day one. I loved it because even though it's white collar, because of the price tag, it's a blue collar mentality.
Yeah.
And I grew up very, very blue collar. So if you grind it, you study, you put in your own efforts, you grow people, you create like a team environment, like a sports team in particular. I think life and baseball mimic each other a lot, and especially in mortgages.
Yeah.
It just was very natural. It was
Mm-hmm.
very natural for me to kind of just be in awe, and I still am. I love this industry. I love what it does. I love what it's done for so many people. It's just truly amazing what this industry does, because even if you're not a homeowner, if you're renting somewhere, more than likely you got financing for that. So it's just so wonderful what it does for this country, for this world. I mean, it's essentially at the backbones of trillions and trillions of dollars annually. It's just so rewarding.
So I've been to your office. I've seen that teamwork. Yeah, it's pretty cool to watch as an outsider.
And we still got a lot to go. There's still a lot that we got to do, because, I talk a lot about in my organization the last decade, I felt like there was an old guard and just a mentality that needed to change, needed to grow. And we needed to be more organic, and our thought process needed to be a lot more positive, and to always work to strive to get better. I think that's one thing that's facing the industry, is just challenges of people that have been around it a long time that don't want to grow. And, there's a saying, like I said today, if you're not improving even by this much, all you got to do is improve by this much every day, you're dying a little bit. There's two things that happen. You either get better or you get worse. There's no staying flat.
We're going to take a break to pay the bills. Difference Makers podcast is powered by Verity Search. Verity Search is a different type of executive search firm. With industry insights and access to data unlike other firms, Verity serves as a trusted advisor to its valued clients. In today's competitive war for talent, they understand recruiting requires having a strong sales and marketing approach. Recruiting is not posting jobs online and waiting for unqualified people to apply. It's active, it's engaging, and it's working with people while maintaining extreme confidentiality. Verity seeks to build strong, trusted relationships and initiate conversations with industry leaders. Their solutions and techniques are innovative and brave, but based on industry knowledge and key identification strategies. Verity helps clients with their most complex strategic challenges. Some of the key services include strategy planning, research, marketing, prospect identification, qualification, and recruitment across all markets and geographies. If you'd like more information, please check out the website at veritysearch.com. I've seen your vlog, Lending Leadership in Life, and you talk a lot about EPM and standing for empowering people more. What is the motive behind empowering people more? I've been to a few of your events. I've seen some of the speakers you've brought in, trying to make people's lives better, not just at work, but at home. You explained to me that people that have a good, healthy life at home have a good, healthy life at work, and it's not separate. It's all blended.
No, those lines are no longer blurred.
Right. Those lines are no longer blurred, but and that's awesome. And it's inspiring, and I enjoyed my time there. But I wanted to ask you, because this show's called Difference Makers, I want to know why. Like, why? You don't have to do that. You could just run a business. People could clock in, clock out, go home, and that'll be that. But you have a desire to improve people's lives and enrich people's lives. Why? Why do you care?
I mean, it goes back to that conversation with my father, but I kind of had that passion already before that. A lot of people have been kind to me in this life. A lot of people paved the way. But more importantly, I also believe that we're in the personal development business that happens to do that through mortgages, because mortgages provide home ownership, and home ownership is an amazing wealth builder. I mean, if you just look at it very unemotional, just basic math, you pay down your mortgage, depending 3-4% a year, depending on what year it is in the loan. You get the tax write-off, which helps you about 2% of your money. And then with your same money, real estate gains 2.5% to 3% on average. So just for shelter, which we all need, or you're homeless, you're gaining somewhere from, conservatively 6 to 8% returns. So first of all, that's an amazing return. Second of all, home is where many, many memories are built. Many situations happen, and even more now today with COVID, home ownership is now where you could possibly work. There's going to be a lot more than that happens. But more importantly, you're asking me the why on what is my purpose. It's just as simple as I just want to leave this place better than I found it. My father was able to answer that question. My mother's going to be able to answer that question. Thank God she's still with us, because she was a teacher for many, many years. And more importantly, she has stared death in the face when she was told 25 years ago she only had 6 months to live, but they did an experimental bone marrow transplant on her, and she's survived breast cancer twice. So I've just been very fortunate. I think that's, if everybody just changed the life of 10 people, within one generation, this whole world would be better. I understand that not everybody has that. A lot of people are negative, and unfortunately they have pains that they never addressed. Everybody always talks about what's the gateway drug in life. It's emotional pain that's never been addressed. We've all gone through pains and struggles, but have you addressed it? Have you made it better? I just feel like I'm very fortunate in my life, in my circumstances, to have this level of perspective and adaptability. And I think it would be a waste if I can't go out there and make people better than they ever dreamed of. Because it's not just making people better. It's making them think they lived in a fantasy, in a dream world. And I didn't say it's always going to be sunshine and rainbows. I'll be the first one to tell you, you've got two prices you pay in life: the price of discipline or the price of disappointment. And it's not easy. It's a daily thing. It's something you do every day. It's not like, hey, I'm going to be motivated today. Motivation comes from day in and day out action. And
discipline. Like you wake up. What time do you get up every morning to go to the gym?
The alarm's 4:20. A lot of times I get up at 4:20, but sometimes, today I hit snooze once and then sat around and read my phone till about 4:35. But my trainer and I start at 5:15. So that helps a lot because I got somebody else counting on me. So I got to show up.
Well, I've been the victim, beneficiary of those 6:30 a.m. phone calls on the way home from the gym. And actually, at first, those calls would come in, and I'd be like, "Oh my God, really, Eddy? Right now, 6:30 in the morning?" And then I promise you, within about, and then there was like 2 weeks later, a day went, and you didn't call me. I was like, "Damn, why didn't he call me?" And now I look forward to them. I need those calls, because they get me fired up. I go into the office. I've got a little jump in my step. I'm fired up. We talk about stuff about me. We talk about stuff about you, and it's cool. So I can see how your training partner fits in there too, right? What's your greatest accomplishment, Eddy, in business right now? And maybe also talk about what's your greatest accomplishment personally.
Business-wise, I'd probably say my greatest accomplishment was just that KP and I started this company as a broker back in 2005 with $1,000. And today we've morphed all the way to a full-blown mortgage banker, to the point that we have 400 employees. We have our Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie. We've been able to grow people. We've had a lot of people who have left here and done well. I think that's been the greatest accomplishment, is just that, two guys that were told they were too young, they couldn't get it done, just believed that we could do it a better way. And there's still better ways. We still got to improve. There's still things that we got to do as an organization, from technology to communication.
You're never done growing, right? You're never done.
Yeah, you're never done growing. It's always, because people also have things that happen to them in their life that may take them out of the game. So I would say that. I'd say my greatest personal accomplishment, is my children. They've always been, I was very fortunate to have the parents I have. I hope to be half the parents that my parents were to me. I don't think I could ever be as good as them. They made mistakes in my life. I've made mistakes in my life that I can't come back and change, but I can definitely work on what I'm doing today. but they were just an amazing example. Even just talking to me, like they just knew when to say things good, and even when it was a little salty and I didn't want to hear it, they gave me great perspective. There was just amazing knowledge and just a sheer appreciation. So, I was very fortunate to be able to have 3 children, and that in itself, there's so many people that aren't able to have them or have difficulties. And that even, it's also appreciated because, not something that I talk about much, but, we had a couple miscarriages as well. And I think that's just some of the level of appreciation that I've just been able to have those people and just share those memories and all that.
So I've got to ask you, because I think this came out yesterday. I saw it on LinkedIn, and it was talking about criticism. Mm-hmm. And if somebody has the courage to actually speak out and not being defensive, not taking it defensively and hitting back, but actually receiving it as a blessing, right? Could you talk about that? Because I think I commented on that and I said, I think that's your best post ever, because I literally sat there and thought for 15 minutes after that post.
Criticism is truly a gift, because if somebody's speaking out, they're giving you their time, and time's the one thing we all share as humans, and you can't ever get it back. And even if the criticism is at an agenda against you, they're telling you the roadmap of either what they're going to do or what they're going to say against you. So if it's in a way to make you better, that's a gift. If it's in a way they're trying to take you down or try to get you to act a certain way, that's a gift, because they've also given away their character, which you actually know you can't trust them or you can't have faith in them. Or more importantly, next time you're like, all right, where's the hustle and the agenda going to come from? That's just a gift. It's a gift that lets you get better. It's also a gift because I believe, people say, oh, are they thin-skinned? Are they thick-skinned? I think at a certain point, you got to learn to be numb. And it's not that you can't feel the pain. You just got to learn that it hits like a bulletproof vest, but it doesn't penetrate, and you just got to go with it. And you got to learn from it. Unfortunately, your brain is wired defensively, so naturally you jump into it. But as we learned from Janine Driver, if you change the word why and who to what and how, what made them say that? How is this going to impact me? You go into an offensive mindset, which is positive versus negative, and you flip the script, but that takes a lot of training. And more importantly, that takes a commitment from yourself that you don't want to be defensive. You want to be emotionally intelligent. And more importantly, you want to be able to see the forest through the trees. It's what I always laugh when people say about, oh, that person had great vision. No, that person just understood the game and respected it and studied it. And more importantly, study themselves, because, wisdom is knowing others. Enlightenment is knowing yourself.
But you also differentiated between criticism versus complaining, or I don't remember the exact term you used.
Candor versus complaining.
Candor versus complaining, right. And being able to differentiate between the two, because there's some people, let's just be honest, there's some people that are just going to bitch no matter what.
There's some people, if they showed up with the lottery ticket that won it, would talk about the tax rate. It's very sad that people think that negative.
Yeah.
And the sad part that really breaks my heart about humans, because everybody talks about races, but there's really only one race, the human race. Everything else is ethnicities. That's why I don't even go into those words, because I know for a fact they're just wrong, and that's what has led to so much division, because 98% of us are the same. It's the 2% that's different that makes us unique, which is something we should celebrate. And I think once people realize that, it'll be a lot better. But candor, they actually care about you. May not like it, but they care about you. Complaining, that's a term that I'm going to use that I used on a blog the other day. People that complain are ass-holes. And what that really means, and I love this one, I only heard it a week ago, and it's fabulous. You know that. They ask you a question, and you tell them your opinion, they ridicule you. Or they're asking the question, already knowing how you're going to answer it, to ridicule you or go passive-aggressive. But once again, it breaks my heart, because that's an reflection on them. That's negative energy they're giving themselves.
Couldn't agree more.
You don't have to let it in.
Couldn't agree more. You
don't have to let it in.
There comes a season of life where you get to that point where you talked about enlightenment a second ago. When I was younger, I would just react emotionally, right?
Your brain's wired that way. That's normal.
Yeah, it's just competitive nature, right? We're both ex-athletes, so that's just my nature is to fight back, right? Because we
Remember,
don't like to lose, right? And we're perceiving that as losing
not necessarily.
instead of humility, having some humility and seeing yourself in the
There's
mirror and really
there's a
being,
lot more winning
yeah,
doing it the different way. And real winners that are competitive, like your Michael Jordan, had that fire and had it in the locker room, as we've seen in The Last Dance. But you didn't see him retaliating to the other people who would trash talk him. He would just go hang another 40 points on you and be like, dude, you should have just kept your mouth shut. You know, your brain's wired to get defensive, but, unfortunately, your brain usually betrays you.
yeah,
It really does. And you got to understand that wiring and how it works. And even the great thing is you don't have to do anything. You can just say time out. Like,
yeah.
Hey, let me give it some thought.
And that's
Even
the
if you
key,
don't have
though.
an idea.
But
just
that's
that
the
thought.
key is getting to the point where you can say time out, right? You don't want to react right away because you've got to separate the emotion from the logic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let's move on because we could do another show on that for sure. But here we are. It's 2020. It's been a hell of a year in so many respects. We've got this pandemic. We've got COVID that thank God, we're receding here in Florida. Seems to be receding in many other parts of the country.
Mm-hmm.
How has this COVID thing thrown the mortgage industry into what we're seeing right now? I mean, which has been fairly chaotic, right? How has it affected the mortgage business, and where do you see the biggest surprise or challenge that's come from this situation?
Obviously, all of a sudden, people couldn't show up to the office, work from home. Volumes have stepped up. There's not enough operational folks to get loans done in what we got spoiled in a timely fashion. And unfortunately, a lot of people are demanding. That's the biggest challenge I've seen. However, I'll tell you, it's just been an opportunity because for over 20 years, the first-time home buyer market, the average age kept going up and going up and going up and going up. And this year alone, I even looked at a stat yesterday after my call with the MBA. There's more people under 25 buying a house now than, I don't know if it was 25 years or 30. It's an awfully long time. So people are now realizing they may work from home. I think a lot of people have liked working from home. I think a lot of people have liked not traveling. I think a lot of people have gained, oh my God, now I can spend that extra hour or two a day with my kids, or hey, now that time that I now have to work out is there, and my time to get better is there, and my time to read. So the challenge in the industry has just been that it looks like there's going to be volume. However, that's a wonderful opportunity because it's going to be a wonderful stimulus to our economy because people are going to save money. People are going to buy houses that they want. People are going to move into more square feet. I think it's going to affect the car industry because people are going to drive less, so they're going to hold on to cars more. People may not want a certain type of car anymore, because they're not having to go into the office. So, I think it's been a boom for real estate. I think it's going to be a boom for a long time, not even just in refis. I'm talking about purchases. I saw an analogy the other day that summed it up pretty well, that trying to find a house right now was to buy that you want is kind of like trying to find toilet paper in March. And I think it's been a wonderful blessing because it's going to let people build wealth. It's how people are going to build generational wealth. It's going to be how, minority communities start building up. I just think the opportunity is, I think the only challenge is finding the capacity and getting more staff. But I think for unfortunately too long after the crash, we did not invest in new staffing because of the regulations, the laws, the expense. We didn't know what was going to happen with the industry. There was this wishy-washy stuff. So I think now it just makes us have to invest in a younger generation. And I know there's other organizations out there like NAMBA that's investing in kids out of college to start to work for people, to intern, to learn. I think that's a good thing. I think that's a great thing.
We're incredibly blessed. There's no question about that. I mean, you look around, there's 18,000 restaurants have gone out of business, right, since March. I mean, we are incredibly blessed in this business right now. And I'm looking for ways that I can help bless others, try to help people that need it, because I've been in that situation before personally. And it's not a good feeling. There are people that are hurting out there. And if we can help them in your business, if you can help them by, tapping into equity and helping them from that perspective, then, that buys people time, or maybe they can work on these projects around the house or whatever the case may be, provide that cushion, that nest egg. And that's what your home is for, right? So we've talked about the challenges that we're facing now as an industry. It's a capacity issue, getting more through the funnel, right? Operations, we know it. We're living it every day at my company. But what do you think is the next big shape shift in the business? Let's get past this. Let's say we're at the end of 2021. What's the next thing? You've got good vision. What do you think maybe the next big move is in the mortgage business, or things that we need to be focused on?
I definitely think wholesale continues to grow. The borrowers are a lot more flexible, and they're not of, our generation X or older that say, oh, I got to go with the lender. Oh, I got to go with the bank. It's more like, oh, they may be the broker, but they're getting me this deal. They shop it. I don't think that's a bad perception like it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they continue to grow. Plus, that's where you're seeing a lot of, you're seeing women, minorities become self-employed and rise themselves up. So I think that'll continue.
Yeah.
I definitely think, just because depending on what the volume is, I think there is a possibility that the industry becomes more global. And what I mean by that is, you've already seen firms that are definitely offshoring certain duties, but I think that'll continue, not because people don't want to hire in this country. I just don't know if there's enough manpower. I think we got to go out and find more talent. And what else can you do but to go outside for that? And, if these numbers keep up, you already have constraints on how many people work if you're around 2 trillion. This year, they're talking about it's going to be 2.4, 2.7 trillion. If that stays for quite a few years, it still takes a while to get people up. I just think there's going to be that. Obviously, there's going to be, more and more people doing direct to consumer. But I think from a origination standpoint, you're going to start to see a lot more people want to create the lead of the borrower first before getting it through an agent. I think you start to see more of an advancement there.
Yeah. Race to the borrower, I've heard, right? That's,
yeah.
And then you can choose whether to take that lead to the realtor or not, right?
Yeah, I think you'll see a lot.
How important is that face-to-face still to this day? And do you foresee ever a day where that's not the primary driver of this business, that face-to-face, that relationship business?
There'll always be the relationship business, because they'll always be the first and second time home buyer. There'll be people that just want to get walked through. Plus, there'll be loans that, people did not have the educational sense. And what I mean is being taught about credit, being taught about down payment. They're going to need that professional that helps them through there. I remember they said the stockbroker would go away, and maybe it did, but there's still financial advisors, still people that want to manage their money with somebody. It may change. It may be that they're their friend recommends them to somebody in another state, and they're doing a Zoom, so it's not down the street. But I just think that they'll always be, especially in the purchase market. In the refi market, we've already seen you don't have to be in the same place. It doesn't matter if they're down the street. It doesn't matter if they're in a call center, because at that point, they've already got the home. They're not going to lose it. From a purchase standpoint, I think from a relationship standpoint, and I think it's a very human thing. What we're seeing a lot right now is the kids that want to go back to school, the people that want to go back, they're looking for the human interaction, because that's how our bodies and our minds are designed. So that's not a bad thing. Staying boxed up, maybe the dream of a certain level introvert, but there still needs to be some human reaction, interaction with most people.
Totally agree.
So I don't think it'll go away just because humans aren't designed that way. Can it morph? Can it change? Of course, that's disruption. That's evolution. That's evolving. Mm-hmm. But I still think there's going to be some people.
As much as things change, a lot of things stay the same. Much like in my business, we've got every technology tool imaginable. Data is easy to find today as opposed to when I started in this business. But the most important tool I have on my desk is my telephone. We hope that never changes here. So I don't think that face-to-face, that relationship piece of the mortgage business ever dies, ever goes away. I really don't.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree completely.
Well, Eddy, I want to say thank you. Man, we got into some stuff, man. We found out where you came from. We found out what drives you, and that's all really important stuff. And I know a lot of people, we're on LinkedIn, and we have this persona on LinkedIn, but we rarely get to know the person. And this was a great.
Hey, if they don't know me too well, then it's because they're not reading, because I try to throw it out there. I definitely believe in positive energy, and definitely thank you for this opportunity. not just for myself. I believe this is one way to pay it forward. You know, there's somebody somewhere listening to this that can grab a tip, grab there. You know, It's the reason even in my CEO peer groups, they're not going to say anything that's earth shattering, but there's little bits and pieces here and there. And if you're picking up little things here and there, it can add to a very, very solid foundation, and especially improving every day. So,
I've got several months of those little tidbits at 6:30 a.m. So they're all adding up for me as well. So thanks, buddy. I appreciate your time. Thanks for sharing, and have a great day.
Always my pleasure.
Okay.
I appreciate it, buddy. Take care.
Bye.